Hello viewers, this particular lecture is about 1.2.3 client and server side scripting. Many people think that this particular topic is actually tough. It is not tough. It should be understood with respect to this 2.3.2 transferable skills, which needs you to understand that whatever the basic control structures like sequence, selection, and iteration and assignments, input, output, whatever the part of one language is part of another language. Only the way to put it is different from language to language, but it is all the same. Secondly, you don't have to remember or write any code in HTML, but you would have to read, observe, and tell about the control structures and variable declarations and functions and procedure, what that you have learned in paper 2, and you would have to tell about it with respect to the languages used in client server scripting. Second thing, you need to understand that this is paper 1. That means that you won't be expected to write any code. All you would have to do is to have a good understanding of the topic, and you are able to observe and reflect upon the given code. You will not be required, let me reiterate, you would not be required to write any code. Rather, you will all be doing is actually reading the code and answering the questions. So let's start. 1.2.3 Client and server side scripting. Describe the sequence of events executed by the client computer and the web server when a web page consisting only of HTML tags is requested and displayed by a browser. Since websites can do a lot, they do wonders nowadays, we will only be stick to static HTML pages and their flow of work when we click over a link in one of the website, and then what happens, we would have to all cover that. Now, at client side, recognize and identify the purpose of some simple JavaScript code. Client side scripting code will be written in Java, will be written and observed and understood in Java script in your syllabus. Remember, there is a lot of difference between Java and JavaScript. These are two different languages by two different vendors. They have nothing to do in common. JavaScript and Java are two different languages. Second point is describe the sequence of events executed by the client computer and web server when the web page is embedded. When a web page with embedded client-side code is requested and displayed by a browser. We will discuss about it. Show understanding of the typical use of client-side code in the design of an application. We will shortly be discussing about it as well. And similarly, the same thing is for server side. Recognize and identify the purpose of some simple PHP code. PHP would be the language that we will be referring to when we will be discussing server side scripting. Uh, Describe the sequence of events executed by the client computer and web server when the web page with embedded server side code is requested and displayed by a browser. Earlier, the same words were for client side, and now this time for server side. Show understanding that that an appropriately designed web application for accessing database data makes use of the server side scripting. We will shortly be discussing about it. You need to understand, let me tell you once again that this particular topic is with reference to 2.3.2 transferable skills. You need to understand that once the language that you have learned, everything that you have done in the language, all the constructs and everything that you use, all the commands would be used the same way. The difference in another language would only be the keywords will be different, and the syntax will be different. Uh, the way we write the code is different, but actually the understanding, the sequence, and the logic will remain the same. So whatever that you do in one language is good enough to understand the code of another language. So let's start. So these are the points that we are going to cover. First one is client server model. I have reflected upon this topic when I was discussing networks in networks lecture. We will again be touching this topic. What are the scripts? Scripts are actually the codes which get executed in the browser. So whatever the code that you embed, that you write in between HTML tags, actually whatever the code that we write and which is meant to be executed in the browser is said to be scripts. So browser does not understand anything other than HTML, so all the codes that we need browser to execute other than HTML should be embedded inside the HTML. By saying embedded, what we are meant is that the code is written somewhere in between the HTML tags. So there are two types of codes, scripts, which are actually used. One is in the browser at client side. It works in our tablets, our phones, our laptops and tabs. The others work on the server side, and they are not actually obvious to us. So what are on our side is client side scripts, and what are on server side are server side scripts. Then we need to understand that what are the steps taken by the client and server when a web page is requested by the browser. So this is something very important, which has importance in terms that the questions that appear are actually related to this particular thing more than any other question. You would have to actually understand it thoroughly. We will be discussing it shortly. Typical use of client and server side codes. Client side codes are good. For example, they help us to adjust screens as per the device size, which is said to be responsive website, and they do a little handiwork for us as well, like validations. They can be done on the client side to ease up the pressure of execution on server side, and so on and so forth. We will look into it shortly. Recognize and identify, not write the purpose of a script. So we would be reviewing few of the commands both in JavaScript and PHP, and we will be understanding their purpose so that we could answer the questions in exam. Web applications, when required, database data makes use of server side scripting. So we will be discussing it shortly. Now, client server model. At first, this model describes how a server provides resources and services to one or more clients. For example, web, email, and file server. You need to understand that whatever the devices that we have are all clients, and the computers which are holding the websites and the data related to it. Like when we like to access Gmail, we use, let's say, our cell phone. So our cell phone is said to be the client. Cell phone tries through internet to get in connection with the web server, which is actually providing the email. Actually, email, whatever that appears to you is actually the graphical user interface, but that interface always also provides you with the email. So that data related to actual email is saved somewhere in the database. So there are databases on the server side. So those scripts not are just fetching the data according to our needs, usernames and passwords, but also making the pages which are then delivered with that data at our site so that it could be seen by us. So let's see how it works. Each of these servers provide resources to clients' devices such as desktop computers, laptops, tablets, and smartphones. So let's say these all are the clients. Sometimes desktops, sometimes cell phones or laptops, and sometimes tabs. They all make use of internet to reach out to the servers. Now, Mostly there are servers which are either available freely for the masses from these companies, and these servers are like email server, YouTube server, cloud for saving our files, and then gaming servers. These servers are saved somewhere which we just access. We have no idea where these servers are placed and parked. These are called web servers or communication servers. These servers are mostly placed over the services provided by Amazon and Google services, whereas other servers might be on any company's local area network or internal networks or wide area networks which are made by the companies. Such servers might be common or locally used servers like file server, print server, application server, and database server. File servers are responsible for the files or the data produced by the users in a common local network, which might be or might not be making use of internet like wide area network. And print servers are actually keeping all the print services intact at one place, and application servers are actually liberating users from installing applications on their local desktops or laptops. Rather, these servers provide applications on the go without being installed. So applications are maintained by the application server, and whenever someone tries to open that application or fetch that application, that gets executed on the client side uh, on the go. And the database servers, which are actually responsible for all the data which is kept by the company, and it is being provided to the user as per their levels of accessibility. Now, scripting. So scripting, as I told you, that all the languages and the codes which we actually put inside HTML so that a browser can see and execute them. All computers languages that are meant to be executed inside a browser by a browser are called scripting languages, and their codes are called scripts. There are so many types of scripting languages like JavaScript, ASP, um, ASP.NET, and other scripts. You need to understand that these all scripts are actually written code, and they all are interpreted, not compiled. Whatever the scripts, those are being executed by the browser, are interpreted. It means that their interpreters are embedded inside the browser. So whatever the language that we are using to write the code for the browser to execute should have an interpreter embedded. Nowadays, all modern browsers have got their interpreters, I mean these languages interpreters embedded in them, so browsers have no issues executing all the commands for those languages, out of which the one that we are going to study is JavaScript, and it is one of the most common browser side client side language. Now, uh, there are two types of scripts: client side scripts and server side scripts. As I told you that client side scripts are executed on the client side, and server side scripts are executed on the servers which are hidden to the client. Uh, Client side scripts run on users, I mean clients' computers inside a browser. Server side scripts run on the web server like PHP. So user side or client side scripts are JavaScripts. Everything we see, we click and interact with on a website is actually the work of client side script like JavaScript. All websites run on three components: the server, the database, and the client. So we are the client. The databases are kept on the servers, and servers are having their scripts and machines and everything, so that we are always provided with the best service possible. Client is simply the browser a person is using to view a site, and it's where client side scripting works. Server is a remote location anywhere in the world housing a website that is storing data, running server-side scripts, processing requests, and sending HTML pages to the browser. I have written it in red because you need to pay attention to this part more than any other part. Client-side scripts are embedded in website HTML markup codes. HTML code is called markup code, so you don't have to be worried about it because HTML is not the concern of this particular lecture, which is stored on the server. Upon download, browser locally interprets. I told you that all the browsers interpret all the languages which are meant to be executed inside the browser, and these are not compiled. Browser locally interpreted the code apart from the server. So server has nothing to do with, server just delivers the language inside the code embedded, and when browser finds it, it interprets and executes it. And if it requires additional information in response to the user attempts, the requests are sent back to the server. For example, you are looking at a page which is showing all the email that you have recently received. Once you click an email, that click now requires the email to be fetched. For that click, system will go back to the server, and server find the related email and send it back, which then be shown in your browser. Now you need to pay attention to this part. Important, this is very important part. Steps taken by the client and server when a page or the data is requested. So let's say this is a person who is using a cell phone, a tab, or a laptop, and actually having a website open on his computer. He's working on it. So if there is something that is required, is requested through internet, it reaches out to the server side, which is the website hosting area where there is hardware and there are software. So over the web servers, there are scripts written and executing, and the database that is present. So server side, when it is requested for something, scripts do get executed, data is fetched, and the response is given, then it is shown over the client's computer. So everything a user sees in the browser is a mix of HTML and JavaScript. This is with response to our syllabus. This is actually not with the reference to any modern website development tools. This is with reference to our own syllabus. Interactive and responsive design of the web page allows a website to adapt to the user's devices. That means that if you tilt your screen, the website adjusts itself and all its elements. That is because there is a script working on the client side. So let's start. At first, what happens that a site is loaded in the browser. Secondly, client-side scripts run in the browser and process requested without server's help. When a call to the database is required, then JavaScript send the request to the server. Remember, JavaScript send the request to the server. Server-side scripts process the request which is sent by the client by pulling what they need from the database and then send back to the client. Server-side scripts process the data, then update the site, like loading emails, I mean the website over here, like loading emails, products to a page, if it is a website which is showing products as per the need of the user, and updating data fields and more. So this is what is actually happening when a person requires some data from the database over the web server. Now at client side, the client is the system on which the web browser is running. JavaScript is the main client side scripting language for the web page. Client-side scripts are interpreted by the browser. Remember, this is very important. The process with client-side scripting is the user requests a web page from the server. The server finds the web page and sends it to the user from its database. The page is displayed on the browser with any scripts running during and after the display. So, client-side scripting is used to make web pages change after they arrive at the browser. It is useful for making pages a bit more interesting and user-friendly. It can also provide useful gadgets such as calculators, clocks, but on the whole is used for appearance and interaction. So appearance means when you tilt your screen, the website is responsive because of the scripts on the web page and they adjust the screen accordingly. If you resize the screen, they adjust the screen accordingly. If you are entering the data, they are validating the data accordingly. These are all happenings you have to remember them. You might be asked that what are the typical workings of the client-side scripts. Client-side scripts rely on the user's computer. If the computer is slow, they may run slow. Obviously, it is being executed by the processor on the computer. It is being interpreted by the browser itself. If the computer is slow, obviously the execution model will be slow as well. They may not run at all if the browser does not understand the scripting language. By saying that, it means that browser does not have the interpreter to understand that language to interpret and execute it, as they have to run on the user system. The code which makes up the script is there in the HTML for the user to look at and copy or change. Then server side. A server side is where the web page and other content lives. The server sends pages to the client on the request. The process is the user requests a web page from the server. The script in the page is interpreted by the server, creating or changing the page content to suit the user and the occasion and or passing the data around. The page in its final form is sent to the user and then cannot be changed during the server-side scripting. The use of HTML forms or clever links allow data to be sent to the server and processed. We will shortly be talking about HTML forms. Server-side scripting tends to be used for allowing users to have individual accounts and providing data from the database, as everyone access their emails and these emails are different from others, and you are accessing those emails from the database as per the username and password that you use. It allows the level of privacy, personalization, and provision of information that is very powerful. E-commerce, MMORPGs, and social networking sites are rely heavily on the server-side scripting. PHP and ASP.NET are two main technologies on the server side. The script is interpreted by the server, meaning that it will always work on the same way. Server-side scripts are never seen by the user. They run on the server and generate results which are sent to the user. Running all these scripts put a lot of load onto the server, but none of the user's machines. So we might be asked for the combination. So combiningly, you would have to write the whole thing. Sites such as Google, Facebook will use both types of scripting. Server side handles logging in personal information and preferences and provide the specific data which the user wants. Client side makes the page interactive, displaying or sorting the data in different ways if the user asks for that by clicking the elements which trigger the events like sorting and color changing and tilting screen for responsive websites and all. Now, you don't have to worry about any of the HTML codes written over here. This is just for your understanding. You might see such thing in exam, but again I'm telling you that you won't be asked to write any of the code. So this is actually HTML forms. HTML forms are input forms which are provided by HTML, and they can cache data and deliver it to JavaScript so that JavaScript could validate it or send it over to the web server. So let's see how. To show this form, you would have to actually start from the tag which says form, and it will be ended at /form. So whatever that you write between form and /form will be having such output on the screen. So it's there are this is actually the heading of this form, which you can see over here. Please send us your registration and all. This is the prompt that you can see. It is here, first name, and then we have got last name, which you can see over here, and then email address, which you can see over here. And these are the input boxes, and this is a check, and this is a button. So let's see how everything is being seen. You need to show this prompt. All you have to do is to write this way, and then you would have to actually show this text box so that you could collect the data. Then you would have to put a tag that says input, and then you would have to describe that the input is the text box, and you would have to name it so that you could refer to it for its values. And then last name, same text box, and the name is name, and then email, the name is email. These are the identifiers for these boxes. These are not actually anything else, just the identifiers. Actually the type is being shown using this word text over here. And then you have got this checkbox which says that I agree to the terms and conditions, and then you would have to tell that it's a checkbox. Over here it is a text box, it is a checkbox, and the name of the checkbox is this. And then we have got this submit button, and the type is submit. Submit is the standard data type of the button, which actually triggers the event that will send your data to the server. Now, if you see the embedded code inside HTML, these are HTML tag. HTML starts from tag HTML, then /HTML, and then it has got a body. Inside the body, whenever you see these two tags, it means that the code is written inside these tags. So to insert a JavaScript to an HTML page, we use the script and /script tags. So whatever, you might be asked that where at which line number the scripts are starting, so you would have to actually look for this tag and then this tag. Remember, inside this tag, after the word script, you may have other parameters as well, but the main thing to recognize from where the JavaScript code is starting is always this tag. Now if you look back with reference to the previous code that I have just shown, over here you can see that it is written script, and over here it is written /script. Inside the script you can see that the code for the validation of the data that we have entered over the HTML form, for that validation of the data, the function is written over here. So this is validate form function. Please understand it with reference to the code that you might have written in paper 2 with reference to subroutines, functions, and procedures. So this is a variable which is being declared over here. Not just declared, it is being assigned the value from the form that we wrote earlier. But the word document, it's actually for the language to refer to the page where it is written. So whenever the word document that you see over here, it means that the language is referring to the page on which it is itself written. So this current page. And then there's a form. The name of the form was inquiry, and over the inquiry there was a field, and whatever the value that user has entered on that field is then given to first name. And then it is checking that if first name present is equal to null. So single equal to sign and double equal to sign, we will be discussing this shortly. Single is for assignment and double is for actually matching these two values, and this is OR sign. Or first name present is equal to null. Then alert is actually a pop-up dialog box that will appear on the screen with this message on it, and then the function returns false. Secondly, the last name is being checked for the value is the variable last name is being the variable is declared over here. The value from the form from the field last name is being assigned to it, and it is being checked that if it is null or nothing is entered in it, then it will also be giving an alert over here. It will be showing a pop-up box, and then it is actually validating the email. Do not worry about all these things that you see over here. All you have to understand is that the value of the email is being assigned to this variable, and this variable is being validated for the email syntax. And then we have got terms, if it is checked or not. If it is checked, if this sign exclamation mark is for not. If not checked, then it will be showing that you must agree to the terms and conditions. So this is the validation code inside JavaScript for the form that we actually have seen over here. So the thing is, like, the whole code would have this HTML code and this form HTML code, and then it would have this Java code to validate that. Now let's study a few of the statements and commands from the JavaScript. JavaScript code is a sequence of JavaScript statements, understood? Each statement is executed by the browser in the sequence they are written, understood? JavaScript statements are grouped together in the block. The block over here is referred to the construct as it was made in Visual Basic, from if to end if, and from while to end while, and from repeat to until. These are called code blocks. Blocks start with the left curly bracket and ends with the right curly bracket. In JavaScript, these codes are not written with if then end if. Rather, after if, a curly bracket starts and ends where the curly bracket ends. The purpose of the block is to make the sequence of statement execute together. If something is true, you would have to execute few number of lines, and if it is not, you would have to skip it. That is how it works. So now these are the operators, usual operators. This is actually mod. This percentage sign is mod, and this plus plus is increment. Means if a is equal to 5 and then you write a is equal to a plus 1, rather you may write a plus plus. A plus plus is equal to a is equal to a plus 1, and same goes with decrement. Then we have got assignment operator. When we are assigning, it is just like this, but if we are comparing, then we have to put double equal to sign. And if we are actually loosely comparing, for example, if a is equal to a, this would be true, but if we will be exactly trying to compare, then we will be using 3, so then it will be false, and then it is not equal to. Remember, we have been using this sign for not equal to. Over here it is a different sign. Then we have got and. We use these two ampersand signs for and then these two bars for or, and this exclamation mark for not. As you might be remembering, the alert box from the code that we have just seen, an alert box is often used if you want to make sure information comes through to the user. When the alert box pops up, the user will have to click OK to proceed. Syntax is this. And then we have got confirm box. As the name says, that it would have OK and cancel in it. And then we have got prompt box. Prompt box means a prompt is shown, a value is taken input, and then you would have to actually hit OK button. Now, this was all for JavaScript. Now let's see few of the code lines for PHP as well. Server-side scripting, as mentioned earlier in the web server technology, in which a user's request is fulfilled by running a script directly on the web server to generate dynamic web pages. A common dynamic web pages means those pages which upon your click change their shape as per the will, the expectation. For example, if you go to the email website and then you hit next, and then you see a next page which is showing a different combination of all emails, that next page is again fetched from the server. So a common scripting language for the server scripting is PHP. Uses of PHP performs system functions, that is, from files on a system it can create, open, read, write and close them. Remember, it is all happening in the background on the back end over the server, web server, and it is not obvious to the user. So whatever the data that is being fetched is fetched from the server and shown through the scripts on the browser. It can handle forms, gather data from the form, save data to file through emails, you send data and then return the data to the user, add, delete, modify elements within our database through PHP. It can restrict users to access some pages of any website. It can encrypt data. Basic syntax of PHP, it is said to be the PHP parsing engine, which is actually the program that executes PHP. Needs a way to differentiate PHP code from other elements in the page. The mechanism of doing so is known as escaping to PHP. All you have to do is to just memorize these lines. We have canonical PHP tags. The most universally effective PHP tags is PHP. So less than sign, then question mark, then PHP and all the code, and then afterwards we close the code by having a question mark and greater than sign. So there are two ways sending the data from the form on the screen of the client or from the browser to the PHP over the server. The first one is get method, the other one is post method. Get method is a text method. The data is going to the server in the URL, and it is seen by the user because it is in textual form, it is in text form, it is in ASCII form, whereas the post data is in binary form. So let's have a look at it. The post event in the form submission allows the named form fields to be accessed in PHP. If you do remember, when we were discussing this form, every field had a name in it. First name, last name, email, terms, and submit. These are the names of the fields which we call identifiers. This actually topic is referring to that identifier thing. So it is recommended that you look at the tutorial on basic PHP, although the code given should be fairly intuitive if you have experience programming in another high level language like VB in paper 2. So now you need to understand that the form that we had a look was actually at the client side, and the code that you are looking at now is at the server. So client has no idea that code is transferred to this server and it is being caught by the PHP using the post event. So the data has arrived and it is being received with the help of post, and then you can see all the fields over here: F name, last name, first name, email, and the terms, which was a checkbox and all, are being used over here in this PHP code. So let's have a look at this PHP code first. So you can see that this is less than question mark and PHP tag, which starts from here and ends over here, and all the code that is written is inside it. And this is actually validation of the code, same code. Their validation was being done by JavaScript. Over here it is being done by PHP. All the variables in the PHP are starting with dollar and underscore sign. So the request method was post. We will shortly be talking about it. The post method is actually sending the data from the form on the client side to the server on the server side. So it says that if first name in the post, the field first name was empty or last name was empty, then print means that you would see this on a screen, and invalid is equal to true. Over here the flag invalid is false, it will become true, and obviously at the end the flag will be checked. Now secondly, it is if it goes further, if it is not empty, then else part will start. You can see these curly brackets. These curly brackets are signifying, this curly bracket over here is signifying that the part of the if is starting, and over here it is ending. This curly bracket is signifying that this else part is starting and ending over here. Now if it is not empty, then the value of this first name and last name will be assigned to these variables inside the PHP. Same happens over here and over here, and ultimately it is being checked over here that if invalid is equal to true, then it means the data is actually not accepted. Now let's see how these methods of getting data or posting data works. Before the browser sends the information, it encodes it using a scheme called URL encoding. It is, remember, the get method is text method. In this scheme, names or values pairs are joined. Name means identifiers and their values, which are being accepted by the form when it is being submitted by the user to the forms, are joined with equal signs, like first field its value, second field its value, third field its value. Sign in different pairs are separated by dollar. So what is happening, if let's say if there are three values which are being collected over the form, then they will be sent in the URL. Remember the address bar, it has got that all data, but it is shown to the user. Spaces are removed and replaced with plus sign. Do remember that these things which we are studying now will be asked in the question paper, so be very much attentive to it. Spaces are removed and replaced with plus sign, and any non-alphanumeric characters are replaced with hexadecimal value. Other non-alphanumeric characters are replaced with their hexadecimal. Non-alphanumeric, alpha means all the alphabets and numeric means all the digits. If anything is other than that will be converted to their hexadecimal values as per the ASCII. The get method sends encoded. User do not understand this encoded terms in terms of encryption, encoded in terms of this formation. User information appended to the page request. Appended means whatever the data that you have collected will be appended. Appended means added to the end of the website address or the web server address. The page and the encoded information are separated by question mark. So you might have questions at what does additions character means, what is plus sign, what if you see an and sign, ampersand sign, what do they mean? You need to remember these. The get method produces a long string that appears in your server logs in the browser's location box or the address bar. The get method is restricted to send up to 1024 characters. So if you have got more data to send, and if it is more than 1024 characters for the whole URL to be submitted to reach out to the server, that is not possible. Never use get method if you are having username and password. So username and password will also be going in the form which is over here and can be seen by anyone. It can be used to send binary data like images and sounds. They cannot be sent because images and sound cannot go in text form like this. The data sent to the get method be accessed using query string environment variable. So query string environment variable is over here. So this is query string environment variable which is actually having it. So now the data sent by the get method can be accessed by query string environment variable. The PHP provides $get associative array to access all the data sent. Uh, Actually, what happens that when the data is received, it is received in these things, these identifiers, which are actually array. They provide, for example, you can see over here that same dollar underscore post is having first name, and same dollar underscore post having last name, and same dollar underscore post has email and others. So it is sort of array which is not being referred to by its number rather than by the field name. So you don't have to worry or remember anything. All you have to remember is that you have to actually deal it with respect to the names appearing inside these double quotations, because these are the field names. Now, so let's revise. Get method do send the data to the server, but in the form of text. That text cannot be greater than 1024 characters. So the website address is given, and then the question mark, and then the name of the identifier, then after equal to its value, and then a question, then an ampersand or end sign, and then it goes further. Spaces are removed with plus signs, and all any other alphanumeric character, non-alphanumeric character, will be replaced by its hexadecimal ASCII value. Everything goes and then listed in the server. So passwords and binary files should not be sent. Binary files, as in the images or sounds, they cannot be sent anyway because they are in the form of text. Now, this is the tag less than question mark PHP, which is ending over here. So all the code from this point until this point is PHP code, and over here the code is HTML code. So this dollar underscore get environment variable is getting it by the name of name and the age. So if this means that if the data is present here or the data is present here, obviously it is not being compared with anything, so it means that they are checking it for its emptiness, if it is empty or having some data. So if it is this or this, then it says that echo as in output, welcome, whatever the value would be here will be shown, and then echo you are this much years old. So you need to understand that these dots are actually concatenation sign over here. So let's say if the name is Zafar and the age is 30, then it would say that welcome Zafar, you are 30 years old. You need to remember these are text strings and these are actually concatenation sign, and then it will exit the code. The post method. So PHP starts from here, goes until here. Now this time it is not getting it use the get method, rather it is receiving it using the post method. Same code there. The only difference is that was dollar underscore post over here. That was get, and it is now post. The post method does not have any restriction on the data size. Post method can be used to send ASCII as well as binary data. The data sent by post method goes through HTTP headers So the security depends on HTTP protocol. By using secure HTTP, you can make sure. So just very simple that get method does not obey to the security. It is not secure. So if you want to use secure circuit layers or SSL or TLS, you have to have post methods in place. The PHP provides $underscore post associative array. So this is associative array means that it has got all the data. All you have to do is to refer to that data with their name rather than with their index. Now, PHP variables. All variables in PHP are denoted with a leading $sign. The value of the variable is the value of its most recent assignment. Means whatever the value that you have given to it in the end is the value having in that particular variable. PHP does a good job of automatically converting types from one to another. So casting happens automatically. So like Visual Basic, so we don't have to worry about it. Variables. So variables do not have any particular type at the time of its declaration. But when you assign the value to them, they will be the values will already be associated with it. So what happens that when you actually create a variable, you just assign a value to it according to the type of the value. The type of the variable is determined. These are the type integers, doubles. Integer double means that if integer has got 4 bytes, double has got 8 byte, and then they both are actually integers. And then we have got booleans, yes no type, null is special type, means if the value is not yet assigned to the variable, it is null. Then we have got strings and arrays. Now as you can see that over here, if else, we already had a look at this code. So if there are multiple lines, then you would see that there are curly brackets used to differentiate between the code between if and else and if. Then we have got else if statement. This will be used this way, and that's about it. Now in the next lecture, I will be actually solving all the past paper questions. Hope this would have made the topic clear. Until then, thank you.